Hello again, everyone. I'm Dr. George Simon, and welcome to another edition of the new Character Matters program. This is a program where we talk about what I consider to be the defining issue of our time, the character crisis that we have faced for several decades now, and that it impacts every single aspect of our lives, from our community relations to our national affairs to our individual relationships, to the senseless events that used to shock us that have become all too commonplace these days. Some folks asked after the last episode if I wouldn't say something about some of the mass shootings, including the most recent ones. I focus not on particular examples, but on this program, I talk about the essentials of character and what it takes to instill those things, all that it takes to make us decent human beings. We have forgotten this. We have forgotten that no law, no structure can actually do for us what only character can. Our laws and our structures and our institutions were meant to help us with this task. But a destructive, vicious cycle has been in place for several decades now, whereas more and more character-impaired people, more and more character-deficient, character-lacking people populate the society and erode and corrupt the institutions and structures that we have. And those impaired and corrupted and eroded institutions in turn enable more and more character dysfunction. This vicious cycle has left us where we are, a society full of character-impaired people, people incapable of wholesome relationships, people incapable of controlling themselves, people unwilling to exercise proper control over their impulses. I've said it before and I will say it again. Stressors in life, not new. Challenges to be met, not new. Dire circumstances to be faced, not new. Feeling misunderstood, not new. Feeling angry at the world when all seems to be closing in on you, not new. Lacking the internal resources and the controls necessary to keep from doing the unthinkable. That's recent. It isn't that we haven't always had our examples of character breakdown, but we have not been in such a climate until recently. And where we're looking for solutions to the problem is what concerns me the most. Not just as a career helping professional and not just as a scientist practitioner, but as a human being. We tend to want to place our faith in rules and structures when the answer lies where it always has, in the timeless principles that forge in people the character necessary to weather life's inevitable storms with decency and without adding to problems. That's what inspired me to put my latest book out there that explains these timeless principles that have to be reclaimed, have to be learned early on, have to be embraced, taken to heart, and most especially have to be reinforced in our culture if we're to make it. Sadly, I think that before the dawn of the new age, which has to come, things are going to get much worse. We're already at each other's throats, thinking this thing or that thing will fix it, when the only thing that will save us is the only thing that has ever saved us, and that is character. And there is a method to it. Our cultural climate, our world, has to change. But how it has to change is the really tricky part. One heart at a time, beginning with our own. Each one of us has it within our power to be that person that not only doesn't make matters worse, doesn't add to problems, but also leads by example. We have it within ourselves to make the positive contributions, to be truly loving in our engagements, including loving to ourselves, which means that we do not subject ourselves to abuse or unnecessary suffering. Some suffering is necessary and constructive. Some is inherently destructive. And in the last program, I talked about the nature of human aggression, which has been the subject of 3 of my books. And I made it so on purpose because the psychology that we have had that has dominated the field for so long is far too fear-focused, far too focused on all of the things that, yes, are important to human functioning, but pale in comparison to the importance of how we manage our aggressive instincts, which are in us all, and are not just prompted by the fears that we face. They're also prompted by the desires we have, the natural desires that we have. And we've become a culture of folks pretty much out of control when it comes to getting the things that we want. Fair, principled fighting, energetically pursuing things that we legitimately need, with care not to needlessly injure, and with care not to destroy, but only to build, is what assertiveness is all about. But as I mentioned in my first book, many, many years ago, in its very first edition, we've become a culture of undisciplined fighters who fight primarily for the things that we want, not necessarily the things that we truly need, and who fight too unscrupulously, sometimes underhandedly, subtly, covertly, angling for things in manipulative ways, purporting to be doing anything else, and therefore inducing the gaslighting effect in those who would challenge us. One of the reasons why we haven't been helping people get it right is because our psychology, our overall helping mindset, the metaphors within which we operate to help people grow and change, hasn't caught up with the times. It's not enough to mean well when guiding people toward health. It matters to actually do well and to have the tools that fit the times and that truly address the real problems. The psychology for folks basically out of control and who haven't properly developed the capacity to properly love themselves and to properly love the person that they're in a relationship with. The psychology for that, the psychology for helping instill and nurture that is a very, very different psychology from the psychology of even 50 years ago, let alone 100 years ago. And that's precisely what motivates me to do the things I do, to write the things I do. We have some significant challenges ahead of us. Politically, we're at one another's throats. Culturally, we're falling very rapidly into deep decline. And on the relationship front, heartache rules the day. Relationships rarely hold together. The statistics are very clear and they're very sobering. We've forgotten how to love. And there really is a way to do it. But the way is hard and it's challenging and it requires what we have forgotten about. It requires character. And there are certain timeless principles, absolutely essential to instilling it, to nurturing it, to reinforcing it, so that we can live together without fear for one another. Other species on the planet face danger from competing species. We face danger from each other. And the only thing that tempers that danger, the only thing we know about that can really lessen that danger, is a solid moral character foundation. All of us have traits that impact our personality development that we didn't ask for and that just come with the territory. But those traits that influence our personality development do not have to define our character, because we can also incorporate into ourselves and take to heart principles of operating that not only benefit us, but everyone else on the planet, including the person with whom we might choose to have a relationship. So I will keep sounding the same drumbeat, saying the same things over and over again, making the same appeals, spreading the same word. Character matters more than anything. And there are ways to help instill it, to nurture it, and especially to reinforce it culturally, to reward it, that we can reclaim and that we will reclaim. Especially if we're to make it, we will have to reclaim those things. But we may have to go through some difficult times still, because not only have we forgotten what it takes to be a people of character, but we are looking in all of the wrong places for the fix. I will say that one more time. We are looking in all the wrong places for the fix. There is nothing that any chosen representative or rule that we want to put into place can do for us anywhere near as well as a converted heart can't do. That's how things will change. One heart at a time, beginning with our own. And hopefully with the right kind of encouragement and assistance, and a psychology that catches up and once again helps people be all that they can truly be. We're going to be expanding the presence of Character Matters on all of the major podcast platforms. And we're going to be having more live programs. We can't go to an all live format anymore. There are various reasons for that, too numerous for me to explain. And that's why it's my sincerest hope that what I've put into print gets more widespread exposure and acceptance. And you are the key to that, because you have the power to recommend these things to your friends and to others. So to those of you who have found my work, embraced it, and have been among my many supporters, I thank you sincerely from the bottom of my heart. And I thank you all for tuning in again to this edition of the new Character Matters program. And I invite you to tune in again next time for another edition, and to avail yourself of the many articles on the blog at drgeorgesimon.com. You see the URL up at the top of the screen. Hundreds of timely articles, informative articles, just about any topic you want to research. Just plug your questions into the search bar, and I'm sure that several articles will come up, all free of charge. So once again, thanks for tuning in. I'm Dr. George Simon. Until next time, take care.